Spanish and Italian escapades, the VDV Championships are back in France. Welcome to the Var region. We're an hour outside of Marseille. The anxiety this weekend is entirely linked to the weather, but fortunately the sun comes out and would shine almost all the way through this third round of the season. The marvellous Paul Ricard, a technical, very fast circuit is the venue, and the drivers in the 5 categories present here are going to have a great time. The atmosphere is marvellous, and it's time for the spectacle to start. First to the single-seaters and a focus on the phenomenon that is John Filippi. He started in the discipline at the end of 2012. He's already the leader of the 2013 championship. The 18-year-old Corsican will never forget the day he's just had. At 3 in the afternoon, he was taking exams in Corsica. Now at 6:30, he's on track and with a reasonable objective. I said to myself the most important thing was to get some laps in and have a good look at the track because I don't know it. I need to concentrate and work out the corners and get used to the sensations of the car here. John's start in motorsports came in karting 7 years ago. My dad took me for the first time at home in Bastia. It was an afternoon and I didn't like the tyres, the smell of fuel, everything that went with it. But little by little my dad took me out every Saturday with the team over there. Only 18, John knows where he wants to go. I want to turn pro. It doesn't matter in what category, where I live, on which continent. All I want to do is live my passion. And will his school exams help him fulfill his objective? It was the deal between me and my dad, because being a pro is great, but not many make it that far. And having my exams under my belt will give me something to fall back on if I don't turn professional. I'll always be able to go back to studying and not lose everything like some have, if it doesn't happen for me. 3 20-minute races are on the agenda in this single-seater category, which includes recent Formula Masters and Formula Renaults, but from different years. Among the men of the weekend is Ricard in this Formula Master number 44. The meeting starts badly as he starts from the back of the grid, but in race 1 he climbs through to 3rd. In race 2 he finishes 6th, and in the last race he turns on the style. Starting from pole, he holds on to his leader's position before being attacked and overtaken by John Filippi. But the Corsican abandons and Ricard takes the top step on the podium. Another driver showing good form this weekend is Federico Gibin. In race 1 he starts 2nd but soon takes over the lead. Yet Swiss Florian Revaz wants to have his say and a great battle eventually goes Revaz's way. Gibin's 2nd race sees him determined to keep hold of 2nd place, although Filippi manages to pinch it from him. In the 3rd race, Gibin's aim is the same, and this time he's successful as he bags 2nd. Another standout driver is Sylvain Milissi. The first race is difficult for him and he does well in the end to manage 6th. The 2nd race is more dramatic. He starts 4th and is under pressure from Vincent Fraisse. The duel goes Milissi's way. He finishes 3rd and in race 3 gets himself onto the podium once again. As for Filippi, there was one high and lots of lows. He only managed 3 test laps. He finishes 12th in the first race, scored a brilliant 2nd in the 2nd, and in the 3rd race is forced to abandon when leading. Another prestigious field is assembled in the VHC Historic Cars. This Castellet event is a dress rehearsal before the 24 hours which will take place here on September the 7th and 8th. Watching these cars is a trip back in time, back to a time when drivers used their cars all week long, not just when racing at the weekend. All these passionate owners know that the best way to look after a collectible car is to get it out onto the road and the track. At Paul Ricard, there are some classic models which have left their imprint on motor racing history. Let's take a closer look at some of the beauties, including the 5.9-litre Lola T70 Spider, which took part in all the most prestigious endurance races in the world. And this weekend, it's the Lola that sets the best times. Another Lola, the 2210, which takes you back to 1970. With a Cosworth 1800cc 235 horsepower engine, this was for a long time Emerson Fittipaldi's car. The number 11's another duel, a TVR Griffith 200 from 1964, 4,700cc 270 horsepower and capable of 250 kilometers an hour. This one finished third in the first meeting of the year, the 911 2.8 litre RSR number 66. It belongs to the Scuderia Cabana team, and it doesn't look its 40 years. The silver medal goes to a very rare 1976 Chevron, the B36, to the delight of motorsports enthusiasts. And the win goes to this little beauty, an Elva Mark 8 from 1965. All these cars and dozens more will be back for the 24 hours at Paul Ricard, September 7th and 8th. The VDV Protos are all equipped with Honda engines. It's the first meeting of the year for the championship and the chance to check in with Christophe Decoulteau, the Director General of the brand in France. It's a 2-litre engine that generates about 260 horsepower. At the top end, it goes to about 10,000 revs and climbs really high on the laps. It's the engine that's used in the Civic Type R. When you're entering the VDV Proto, what do you expect from the engine? You want reliability. After all, it's an endurance championship with 4 or 6 hour races, and so the mechanics are heavily involved. It's also a category where the budgets are kept low and the key is reliability. So for this Paul Ricard round, what's the principal difficulty for the engine? Well, the long straight. The engine is flat out in 6th gear for a long time. It means the reliability needs work and the gearbox needs to be spot on to avoid any mishaps before the end of the straight. Honda have announced a return to F1. As well as legitimacy with its world titles, what's motivated the comeback? Well, the new rules and the choice of a 1.6-litre small-cylindered hybrid engine. It's a great technical challenge, and Honda loves this sort of challenge. The proto races are always highly anticipated at V2V meetings. The cars have impressive weight-to-power ratios, and with drivers like Philippe Alliot, Enrique Bernoldi and Alain Ferté, the level is very high. The proof of that comes in qualifying, with 5 different teams filling the top 5 places on the grid. The sun is out on the start line, and on pole is the Norma of Capillaire and Bourdin, followed by Acquerie Delafosse. On the second row, Alliot and Clary in the Ligier, and Molini and Wolf with their Norma. Rion and Bourger are 5th, Danilou Piala 6th. It's row 4 for Paul Besançon Tétinger and Vagdo Giors Bourret. 9th for Liano Ferté and the Bellarossa Latif duo. Off the start, it's Philippe Alliot jumping up from 3rd to take over at the front. But by the end of the lap, it's Damien Delafosse who's taken the lead, and he's setting quite a pace, with Capillaire 2nd and Alliot 3rd. The first movement in the pits involves the numbers 22 and 70. Both get stop and goes for having forgotten to switch on their lights. The fight at the front of the field is simply sublime. Delafosse gives it everything to hold off the attacks of Vincent Capillaire. There's joy and happiness at the same time at CD Sport, because the number 4, driven by Inès Tétinger, just as at Mugello, hit serious mechanical problems, and Tétinger is forced to abandon with the gearbox stuck in 3rd. After 40 minutes of racing, there's a surprise when the number 1 comes in earlier than expected for strategic reasons. There's a rapid driver's change, and it's Thomas Acquerie, the reigning champion, who takes over at the wheel. Paul Ricard is an event to forget for the Wolves after poor runs in qualifying. The 27 and 21 hit problems in the races and endure lengthy pit stops. Another Wolf and more issues for the Bellarossa Latif pair, who had won the previous race. Damage done to the base of the car after an escapade from Alessandro Latif on the fringes. The weekend is a strategic one. The proof comes with the 28, which takes over the lead after the refuelling of the other competitors. The car driven by Jack Wolf and Nicola Molini then comes in for fuel itself, but not for tyre and driver changes. At Palmere, it's all about strategy too, as after 1 hour 40 of racing, the best placed cars haven't yet stopped. The Palmeres are currently 1st, 2nd and 5th. At half distance, with all the cars having stopped, here's a look at the standings. Thomas Akeri is back in front and is lapping quickly at 2 minutes 7 seconds. He's followed now by the 28 of Molini and Wolf, and in 3rd is Claire's Ligier. Claire's lapping just as quickly as the leader. 2 hours 15 in is when the JD Racing team call in poor Nicola Molini, who's sick this weekend. He hands over the car to his teammate in 2nd. There's a little difference in speed between the two of us, and we wanted to leave the quicker driver out there as long as possible. We got the fuel in before the 2 hour 10 max for the first driver to avoid traffic jams there. I think we did the right thing. 10 minutes later, the lead car, the number 1, comes in for a driver change. Thomas Akeri can relax after a stint in the Paul Ricard heat, and it's a chance for us to take the temperature of the team. Damien did a great stint. He started from P1 and held the lead. He fought it out with the number 8 Vincent Capillaire and kept the pace high. I'm pleased with my stint too. All we can do now is keep the fingers crossed. We've had no alerts so far, and we're just waiting patiently for the end of the race. We'll see at the end, but I think we've got a real chance of claiming the top step of the podium. It's now down to Damien to do the job, and I've got complete faith in him. At Palmere, the strategy is paying off because David Zolanger in the Norma number 40 is putting in a really good leg and has climbed through the field. From a low of 14th place, now the team's up to 4th after 3 hours of racing. The endurance race is decided by small details. While leading, the Ligier of Alliot and Claire has to come into the pits under the orders of the race direction. The problem is their lights don't work. The team spends a lot of time in the pits to repair the problem, and when Alliot gets going again, it's down in 8th place. There are 20 minutes left. David Zolanger is doing brilliantly. He's now 2nd, and it looks like the top 3 has been decided, with Delafosse leading from Zolanger and Capillaire. But 7 minutes from the end, the Norman needs to take on fuel in order to finish the race. David Zolanger gives it everything, but doesn't succeed in reclaiming 2nd place. On the podium then, it's the Norma CD Sport number 1 from the TFT number 8 and the Norma Palmere number 40. We kept our fingers crossed right until the end. Damien did great work. We've managed to evolve the car and gain positions as the weekend went on. We've scored big points, it's good for the morale. Being back as a winner is just brilliant. Your view of the other competitors who'll be on the overall podium with you? Well, it's really high-level stuff this year. It's just great being able to fight it out with very good drivers. The level is amazing, and it's magnificent. As for Philippe Alliot, a quick debrief of his 2nd weekend in this year's Proto Championship. Oh, the races are very physical and very quick. It's a man's world out there. Despite all the experience I've got, it was very hard. We were leading and we missed out on the win because of an electrical problem with no lights. And so we had to come in and get that repaired. We lost a lot of time. We finished 5th. These things happen in racing. I still had fun. It's always with great pleasure that I come to the Paul Ricard circuit, where I have so many memories. I've won French championships. I remember testing with Jean Todt and the Peugeot, etc. The final results then: Akeri Delafosse 1st, Capillaire Bourdin 2nd, Mondolo Zolanger 3rd, 4th place for Danilou and Piala, 5th goes to Alliot and Claire, followed by Iliano and Ferté, and then Valio Gios Bouret, Rion Bourga 8th, 9th goes to Beck and Michel, and 10th to Molini and Wolf. It's a really busy weekend at Paul Ricard with the Challenge Funyo VDV. There's an efficient chassis, a fine Peugeot engine, reduced costs and friendly competition. That's the recipe of the category's success. The cars were designed by Yves Auron, and he builds these little marbles in France at Vitry. There are 4 men to watch out for in this Castellet meeting. The number 2, Ricard, who was 4th in race 1, 3rd in race 2, and the winner of the 3rd. At the heart of the action, the Frenchman never slipped out of the top 5. Always consistent, incisive, calm, and possessing the spirit of fair play. His display here leaves him in a good position in the championship. We caught up with him after the best race of the weekend, the 3rd race, which he won. There are 5 or 6 potential winners of every race, and so we're in with a chance every time. We just needed to wait for everything to come together and needed to find the right strategy to win, I think. 3 other men shape up as the main competitors this weekend. They're all part of the same family, the Eriot. Father Serge was on the podium in each of his 3 races. The 3rd was intense, and he raced courageously, fighting it out until the final corner. The eldest son, Francois, had a win, a pole, an abandon, a 5th place, and a good fight with his dad. And we must doff the cap to the younger Eriot son, Gilles, who was racing for the first time. He performed honourably with an 11th, 6th and 8th. The Fugnots will be back at the VDV at Dijon on the last weekend of June. The last race of this intense VDV weekend is the Endurance GT, a 4-hour race with 27 dream machines taking the start. The most beautiful and powerful GTs in the world are here in the southern French sunshine. For this 3rd round of the year, the field has been enriched. Among the new arrivals is the Ferrari F458 GT3 of JMB Racing, the Chevrolet Corvette of Nigel Greensall, and the sumptuous Mercedes SLS AMG GT3. We're on board the beautiful German car for a few corners. On the starting grid is the Porsche number 25 of Collard, Perodo and Crubellet on pole, followed by the Ferrari 99. On the second row, the Corvette and the Porsche 007. Row 3 for 2 Porsches, the 17 of Lafargue, father and son, and the 53 of Gibbon Belloc. It's 7th for the Ferrari of Pagny-Perrier-Bouvet, and alongside is the Mercedes. On row 5, Chariot Carugati in a Solution F, and the Spaniards Lorena Clucas in their Mosler MT900. Poleman Sébastien Crubellet and the Porsche 007 make great starts. The 007 picks up 2 spots on the first lap. The Ferrari 99 then reclaims its original 2nd spot from the Porsche Frédéric Ancel before trying to hunt down the leader, the Porsche number 25. While Michelin leads, another Ferrari, the number 2, is doing everything to prevent the leading quartet getting away and clear, and it's working. After 24 minutes, Thierry Perrier pinches 4th place from the Porsche 007. The 4 cars are separated by only 2 minutes 11 seconds, and it's all very impressive. Unfortunately, the Ferrari number 2 clips a back marker and loses 2 spots. After an hour, the Corvette number 102 is 3rd, but must come into the pits and ends up having to abandon. Over in the GTV2s, the Spanish Mosler leads and rounds out the top 10 overall. After an hour's racing, the surprising Patrice Lafargue, not looking tired after his morning racing in Proto, is fourth. Unfortunately, bad luck strikes the team formed of him and his son as the machine lets them down again. After 90 minutes of racing, all the leading contenders have taken on fuel. There's a special mention for the Porsche number 53, which did a great handover between Pascal Gibon and Jean-Philippe Belloc. A reminder of the standings then. First, Emmanuel Collard in the Porsche number 25. Second, Thierry Perrier in the Ferrari number 2. Third is Belloc on the Porsche 53. The two Porsches are flying now. Collard-Belloc is one of the best battles of this poor Ricard weekend. At mid-race, it's Emmanuel Collard who comes in first, handing over to teammate François Perraudot. He says we need François to get up to speed as quickly as possible. It's the small problem we have. Once he's up to speed, he sets great times and is very consistent and doesn't make mistakes. It's just it takes him a little while to get there. I think he needs to cut loose a bit earlier than usual. In GTV2, there's a great performance from the Mosler number 10, which leads its class and is 6th overall. One of the sensations of the weekend, the Ferrari 99 gets a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It sees it slip off the podium to the benefit of the other Ferrari. In the last minutes of the race, it's the Porsche IMSA 53 in front of the Porsche Curbelo Sport number 25. But there are two things to watch. The 25 has to come into the pit several times to get more oil. The 53's only done 3 of the 4 mandatory stops. The end of the race is thrilling. Gibon comes in for the 4th stop, and when he exits the pit lane, he's battling for first with the rival Porsche, the 25, driven by Perraudot. They overtake each other several times, but in the end it's the 53 of Gibon and Belloc taking the win.
Une belle victoire à 2
A great
secondes.
win
On a
by
un bel
2 seconds
adversaire
against
aussi,
great opponents too. It was great, I think, for the people who watched the race. We're in the championship lead and it's a great weekend for us. We had a great time and made no mistakes. The team was great and Pascal put in a crazy final stint. In GTV2, there was a magnificent performance at the end of the race by Julien Jousse. He gave everything he had to get his Audi into 5th overall and won the class to the detriment of the Mosler. The GTV3's top prize went to the 67 of Jean-Pierre Champeau and Jean-Louis Allois. In the Silhouette S1, the Cooper of Chariol and Carigati takes the honours. The podium then, Gibon Belloc in first, Perraudot Curbelo Collard second, Perrier Bouvet Pagny in third, Michelin Claton and Maroc in fourth. In fifth, Tenexian, Chez, Jousse, sixth for Ancel and Blasco, seventh to Lalièvre, Paulette and Nerial, eighth for Philippe and Manuel Zumstein, ninth for Lorena and Klukas, and 10th to Allois and Champeau. The next round of the VDV is at Dijon on June 29th and 30th.